I've been looking for a good time. I've been looking every day. I've been waiting for the sunshine. It's been coming my way. And it's been coming my way. I've been dancing at a hold down, loved to chew the fat with folk. I've been sipping on the moonshine, I've been telling dirty jokes. And it's been coming my way. It's been coming my way. Tell me, is it leaving, deceiving, relieving me anyway? I'm hard of hearing, believing, the healing, it happens every day. And it's been coming my way. I could write you out a postcard, I could tell you all the news. I've been fighting off the demons, there's no way that I can lose. And it's been coming my way. And it's been coming my way. And it's been coming my way.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Paige. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes. We
Good.
weren't too sure right there for a minute.
How
It's
you doing?
all a learning experience, Ed. Oh my gosh.
Isn't it always?
Yes, always. But I have to drink a little Coke, but
Cheers. I'm gonna grab a sip of coffee. There we go.
oh,
Cheers.
you got coffee? I got that too.
Why not, eh? Coffee 247
Yep.
for Ed.
Well, I got coffee and Coke. How about that?
Caffeine. It's the way to go.
Yeah. Overload. Um, You remember? You remember? I like to teach the world to sing.
Oh yeah,
Improved
that was like a Christmas. They
it.
played.
Now, I'm not going to be in perfect harmony though. But I might swing. I might get swinging if I was in the shower.
You're gonna get some
Right,
kind of like a paycheck for doing like a paid ad there for something.
right. Yes. Well, I can't believe the restream cam tonight. I have been using, and this is Ed Roman, and we are the Paige Roberts Show. I finally got set up over here on Facebook. And then we are zooming. We live over on YouTube. We're like 3 other different places. So,
That's crazy. Eh? You can
and
do
I
that.
should be, and I should be streaming from my website as well. So we'll see after the fact.
Well, I mean, it's like it's being pushed everywhere these days, and if you're not on top of it, you're gonna miss the train.
Well, you might as well, right?
Yeah,
Might
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Um. So how have you been? I've been doing good. So.
This is good. This is good. You've been growing the station
Mhm.
in leaps and bounds, and there's been so much happening for you down there. And are you guys getting hit by the hurricane stuff right now?
Um. We got a little bit of rain, and I was surprised we hadn't got more than that. But it's shot up there toward you now, isn't it?
Yeah, we had so much rain. We had flooded basement here. It was like a river going down our driveway. A lot of excess rain, but I mean, we also needed it. We almost didn't have any rain for full months. The garden was crying for it.
Hmm. We didn't either. It's just now, and it's thundering outside now. But I'm like, we did all that fuss and stuff like that. I'm like, you did all that fuss and thunder and lightning blowing. Now where's my rain at?
Well, it was
Right?
so dry. It was so dry here. We were talking about a rain dance. Like we were, like my mom and I were joking about it. But
Hey,
and then it rained so much. She's like, we shouldn't have danced so hard.
well, you know when my old house, when they found the water, when they had to do the well, they Indian, what do you call it? The little stick that you go around
Oh,
and
dowsing. Yeah,
try to find.
dowsing.
Yeah, yeah, and it worked.
Well, this is the crazy thing, eh? Like, interesting you bring that up because I've actually pulled my dowsing rods out more recently, and people are like, yeah, yeah, it's like, BS. And at
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
time, and some people are like, well, no, actually, it works. And funny enough,
it
like
does.
my dad had the gift, and not everybody can kind of do it. But at the same time, there was a water company that used to be in our local town. And what they do is they get my dad to come out and double check with the rods. They wouldn't say anything to him, but he was on spot on almost 9 out of 10 times. And then a friend of mine asked me to come up to his property, and I found 13 different spots with little artesian wells on their
Oh
property.
wow,
So I
awesome.
think there's something to it, intention, and using the human body to
Yeah,
try.
it might be like you said though, and you might have to have a gift in finding it.
Well, yes, and you follow any of what's going on Oak Island?
I've read some of that. I know the full gist of it all. You want to share with
One
us?
of the one of the gentlemen that was there before doing any real survey work, when he had originally started living on the island, and he lived there for almost 50 years, he found some of the places that he started to dig that were really like formidable areas in terms of like, this is a possible building area or something went on here using dowsing. And I think there's something to it. But again, it may be something that's like, imparted to a very few, and maybe passed along in some sort of family trait, if you will.
I think so too, even if it is ancient, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that was like back in 1960, 1960. And I don't know the exact, but my old house was built to 1961. So, and we lived on a hill of rock.
Did they use the
So
metal rods, or were they the Y stick version?
they were the sticks. Yes, sir.
So
And
now
they
there's some,
found it.
now
So,
there's something to that too, because the rods I have are copper, and they say that's the best for it, and I would agree. And at the same time, I'm not sure, there may be something to the type of wood that is necessary in order to utilize that as a tool.
Mhm. Yeah, it wasn't your kind of stick you would find in the woods, say.
No, it wasn't a 2x4 or something.
No, right. It was perfectly shaped rods and smooth. It was smooth. I do remember
Right,
that.
right.
So he could have had that for you.
Well, and hey, you know what? Wood is a really interesting thing, because it's ancient in terms of obviously its existence here, but at the same
Mhm.
time, its properties are sort of what
Right.
you might be considered tools of occultism. They're religious in nature in terms of biblical references. There are stories in present day
Mhm.
that involve wood that almost seem to be extraordinary. So I think
Uh-huh.
wood is extremely potent.
I think so too. Pun intended there, right?
Yeah, well, potent.
Now Ed has been on my show several times, and I really enjoy talking to Ed. Is very knowledgeable, um,
Thanks, Paige.
and so you're welcome. I can barely keep up with Ed, but I know if I go to Michael Stover's Facebook page, a lot of times I can find Michael gets around, right?
Michael gets around, that's for sure, and we're lucky to have him working for us, because he likes the music. He believes in what we're doing, and without his help, I mean, there's a lot of people, to be thankful for what he's been doing. So, kudos, Mike.
That's it. And I know he's busy with his hands full too, with
Yes.
two little ones
Yeah, being a daddy.
running around.
Yeah.
Very cool. Now Ed has been working, and he is also award winning, so Canadian musician. And do you want to talk about? Because I know you're really pushing your Red Roman out there, and you just did your video, right?
Well, the video was released last May in New York, so it's about just a little over a year old. But what's fantastic about it, it was the title track of my previous record. I'm just about to release a new album of material, and I've been released a single a bunch of months ago. It's called Stronger. People can check it out on YouTube. There's a lyric video there. It's almost at like 30,000 plays in a couple of months, which is wonderful. And are set to release a new single coming up very soon, with a video to follow shortly after. But Red Omen was the title track of that record, and it's an anagram of my own name. And if anybody doesn't know, for a long time as a young child, I struggled with what people called, dyslexia, and what they call dyslexia, and that was labeled with, this: you have a problem, you're going to special class. I had to go to summer school, work 3 times as hard as most people just to, obtain a C plus or B average at school. And really, as I get older, I start to realize that school is, life is school. There's so much more to learn out there than just what the history books are telling us, or, application is one thing, and obtaining tools when you get a little older and interested into things, so you can follow those paths a little harder. But regardless, I struggled, and I wrote that song because I wanted to tell a little bit of a story about my personal struggle with self-esteem when it comes to being labeled as somebody that has a problem. You have a learning difficulty. You're learning disabled. This was from a very young age, a problem. And my mom, God bless her, she was always, you're a great storyteller. Sing us another song. Here's a guitar. You know, when I was very young, and really nurtured, maybe in some ways, something she totally didn't
Yeah, sure.
understand. But I that song
Mm-hmm.
ended up becoming, over the last year and a bit of my life, the figurehead for raising awareness and monies for the whole Dyslexic Society here in Canada, and they're a faction of the Davis Dyslexic Society in the United States. So, you know, I created this video with a wonderful animator from New York City who's had some amazing, you know, work in the background in his life with Sesame Street. And if you've seen SpongeBob SquarePants or Kung Fu Panda 2 or the movie Ted, you know, that's Nelson's work. And he loved the tune and really thought that he could add something special to what was going on. And he did. And as a result, this momentum has become, you know, bigger than me. Michael's been working diligently behind the scenes, as you pointed out, and as a result, it's shown at videos at festivals and still showing at festivals across the world, from Moscow to Los Angeles. And just the momentum alone of
Right.
that has created that vehicle for me to be able to say, this is what dyslexia is. I'm focusing the attention on the dyslexic societies, and opening a dialogue with people about what all that is. And it's been overwhelming in terms of like the response from people, interaction, people reaching out to me. It happens daily in my life, and I love it because it's really why I got involved in music.
Do you have people, not really recommendations, or do you have people asking you like what did you do? I mean, you're so balanced and you're so well rounded or grounded even. Yeah.
Well, I'm laughing because I
Y'all go and look at Ed Roman's Facebook page.
I think the Facebook page is one thing, you know, what that's the cosmetic of what we see in the veneer of our existence in the digital world. But ultimately, you know, we as humans are always going through ups and downs, and the ups are important to remember and to focus on, obviously. But the struggles and trials and tribulations of normal existence on this planet can be overwhelming sometimes. And, you know, I'm not always, you know, what I would say present in my own personal life as to what goes on in the media. But as every human does, we're learning and going through change, which is important. That's what I've learned as I've, you know, reached the graceful age of 50, is that the only constant in the universe is change. It seems to be something more and more that I'm learning every day. And as a result, when I release more of myself from myself, in other words, like, I'm not going to worry so much. Like, people often, I'll do an interview about something that has to do with a mix or something that's going on in music, in the recording process, or in, you know, and what I've learned is that it's better for me to let people listen and tell me what they think and experience it for themselves. And as a result, it becomes this sort of collective energy without me having to be fully present. And I wrote the song, I have the chord arrangements, I have the vision for what's sort of happening in the overall spectrum. And that's what I'm presenting to people, including my producer, engineer, and musicians that are a part of what goes on. But what really excites me is the fact that I'm like, I don't want to be there for the entire mixing process. I don't need to, because what we've been capturing from the very beginning is that same forging idea of, like, you know, we're creating out of the sheer need of what the song requires. And in some cases it can lead to, like, you know, difficult decision making, and not argument, but, you know, this idea of like, let's always remember what the song requires. And it's the same thing that has forced me into this incredible amount of change, even in the presentation of what I do. The last two musicians, Dave Patel and Tobias Tinker, that are on this new release, have both said to me, wow, you know, this is a real departure from something like Coming My Way or other tunes that have gotten so much airplay. And I like that. I like that. I was uncomfortable almost in some ways being pushed out of that zone, and at the same time now embracing it like, oh, it's epiphany. I you know, the less I worry, the better it is, you know. And that's been my new mantra lately, is kind of go with the flow, because you know, the flow is always changing.
And that is a good way to do. Um, and everybody, I think, well, not everybody, I won't say, but yeah, certain ones that should do that. I think I'm that way too. I'm certainly not dyslexic, but you know, I do find myself being a little ADD though, although I have not been diagnosed with it. You know, I find myself all over the board, but
Well, I mean, I think that's part of the brave new world that we're navigating, is that there's so much information coming at you at an alarming rate. You almost feel that way. It's hard to take a breath sometimes. And even when you do and keep an arm's length from it all, people are like, "Where have you been? What's going on? Are you okay? I haven't seen you on social media." Da, 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 da. It's I still come from a time when we had a telephone, one telephone in the house, a TV that had 4 stations, 5 stations. Information wasn't omnipresent and happening continually. So your statement's true to form. A lot of people feel that way.
well, and the news is another thing. I have limited myself. I don't I don't do news very well, so I try not to post it. I try not to be around it. I watched a bit of it, and I'm like, whatever. So,
Well, and
but
I
most
think
of the time, it
yeah, I think the news has become extremely sensationalized in many ways, and people might
oh,
misconstrue that statement in a way where there's hard evidence or things that are happening or not happening. But what I found is that when I depart from that for a period of time and I come back to it, I see it as some sort of strange acid test for the human condition. I spend a lot of time reading journals and reading up on things where I'm trying to devise some idea for myself in terms of what's practical for my existence without the flood of information telling me what it is or isn't. And as a result, I feel happier. I know that there's the presence of danger. It exists everywhere
right.
if you turn on. But if you really want to talk about danger, is the potential for our wonderful little blue ball to be hit like a pool ball in a cosmic shooting ring, like it has, in sizes and dimensions and proportions that are almost unfathomable to most human capability. And twice a year we pass through the Taurid meteor stream, and that's like moving through an intersection without stopping at 4 p.m. at 80 miles an hour. That's, I think, more horrific than some of the news that I see happening today.
Oh, I guess people would really blow their mind if they ever researched everything in the system, right? But we won't go into that topic.
No, I mean, that's, we could go, go, but yeah, I think it's also too to there's all like, I wish my grandmother was still around sometimes because, and I'm lucky that she was one. I grew up in a family of like 3 generations, so storytelling was commonplace, especially even if it was family allegory or things that were happening. And my brothers and sisters have that, and so does my mom, and my dad did as well. I think that's like in that process, I remember things about struggles. Things that people today, maybe in terms of what it represents, take for granted. Because people went through them in the past, have died, some lived, some didn't. And I think that recognizing that, and what I'm going to is my grandmother's disposition. I at 50, I'm utilizing it more frequently than ever because the reason is this. My grandmother was born in 1908. She came to this country in 29. She learned to speak 8 different languages before she came here. And when she came here, she learned to speak English. She got her driver's license at 13 and could tune an engine. This was one of the commonplace things for owning a vehicle, when you were a little older, to be able to understand engine maintenance. She raised 3 kids during the Depression. She worked scrubbing floors for $1 a day for Mr. Heinzman, the Heinzman piano like company, the fame, and obviously Canadian well-known piano makers. Her story and the fact that okay, strokes, multiple strokes. She had issues with her legs. Eventually, she started to go blind. She spoke to heads of state because of what my father did as far as politics was concerned. She spoke to children in our neighborhood like she was their grandmother and their mother. Looked after people, but always had this disposition, even though she went through incredible things. Like even in the First World War, living through that in Europe before she came here. Saw horrors. In the 50s, my grandmother, she had a heart attack, and then all of a sudden polio kicked in. My uncle had polio. Everything had to be burned, all the clothes in the house washed with Dettol. My family had to go for globulin shots 3 times a week. Everybody that my uncle came in contact with, same thing for 10 years. Around the greater metropolitan area of Toronto, where my family grew up, things were not normal. And people forget that. And I'm appreciative of my grandparents and other people that remind me of that. The times that have come and gone have been struggles. You have to keep looking positively and moving forward through all of it, despite that it's going on. I'm lucky music gives me that vehicle, because I've turned a lot of negatives into positives in my life because of it.
That's awesome. And yeah, and like you were talking about, just not being on the everyday worry about this and worry about that, and what's going to happen today and what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen, da 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 da. And then I'm
And it's
talking to
always going
people.
to happen.
I mean,
It's always going to happen. There's nothing new under the sun, right?
but I'm like, faith over fear, y'all. Come on now, there's all kind of myths out there that that you have to. And I'm not going to say worry. That's just out there,
Right.
right?
And I mean, I'm not saying throw caution to the wind or
Right.
not be consciously peripheral to what's going on.
Right.
But
Mind
like
is a good word.
even the current circumstances, it can be really difficult.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, all that stuff, and I don't like to clutter my brain with all of that. And so yeah, music is the great way to relieve any and all of it. So, and
That's right.
I'm piano, and it's my perfect um, tension reliever. It's the piano. So I'm like, okay.
Nice.
But it's sad though that if there's people out there that doesn't even really know music, right? Could you imagine?
I would find that somehow hard to believe, because where we sit today, we understand what music is as far as framework and what it's become. There's so many things that have led us to this point. But what I come to understand, as I would say an amateur anthropologist, is that there are factions of musical ideas that come from the symbolism of who we are as people in every culture around this world through every age. It may not be recognizable to what we know it as today, but the literal need to create sound as a result of communication has been there for time on end. And animals are one of those things that I look to as an example, because when the spring comes in Canada and you've been cooped up here for months and you hear those first songbirds like the red-winged blackbird and things like that here in Canada, that's communication to me, and it's song. They are pitches, they're notes, if you want to like categorize them somehow and say that they are this, that, or the other thing. But ultimately, that is nature, in essence, being musical in order to communicate. And that's what I've always saw music as. I mean, we could say it's a commodity, we could say it's fun, we could say it's crazy, we could say it's an art form, it's a craft. All of those things are true, but ultimately music is a way to express the need to communicate something, and it could be bad and it could be good. It could be, out of necessity, as I said, most of the time. The first primal things that we do as children are make these sounds that our parents then start to recognize as the music of necessity. They are happy, those children. The child needs something. We need to change its diaper, whatever it might be. Those are indicators of some sort of form of human music.
Vice versa. Vice versa on that. With a child, the opposite of what you're saying. Yeah, recognizing the mother, it's just the bond, I guess. Yeah.
That's
And
right.
that's amazing too.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Even like tribally, like stories that are shared,
mm-hmm.
whether they be through dance or song or just spoken word, they're all recognition points as those cultures, and they're flag posts, and for things that about who they are, where they came from. One of the interesting things I've been looking at in like studying ancient history as well as ancient cultures is that this is synonymous with that whole thing, as I mentioned, storytelling. They are some of the very things that then help us align our greater understanding of our maybe a bigger part of the totality of our existence. Because once you start seeing those parallels, you start to realize there isn't that much difference that separates epic stories of who, what, where, why, and how. And that's what I find really fascinating, is that it almost weaves us all together in this way. That even though it's fragmented and broken apart and organized in ways that we call rock music, funk music, jazz music, classical music, baroque music, it doesn't matter. It all is some representation of the emotional human condition.
I don't understand that too. Why do we have to genres that?
Well,
Categorize.
that's the commodification of it, if that's even a word. But when you're turning something into something that has the potential for monetary gain, categorizing it for those that feel like they're part of what that represents is highly integral as far as sales and the repercussion of how it affects those parts of culture. Some of the people that I love to listen to that are no longer with us, but their ideals about music were things that were like, Mingus. I love Charles Mingus. I love him for a lot of reasons. Compositional reasons, his prowess as a bass player, but also his philosophical ideas. And I remember hearing him say things like, when he would go to Europe, they would call him an American artist. Now, most people, when you do a search on Charles Mingus, they'll say jazz bass player, compositional, da 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 da. They won't say, and they may later say American, right? But the classification was so insignificant to somebody like him, and others too that maybe sort of had that same sort of philosophical idea. And as a result, carrying that with you leaves the doors open. And in the weirdest of ways, and not the weirdest, in the wonderfulest of ways, sort of shuts off the ego and allows new experience to occur, because you're not trying even yourself to be the things that the frame tells you to be. One of the hardest things for some actors have been is when they've really gotten a great role and they've been really popular for somewhere in a show or they get pigeonholed, and some actors hate what that represents, and it can take years for them to break out of those roles so that they can experience other things as an artist, because they have so much more to offer. And I think that classification, like you said, why, it's kind of where we're at. And now today, I think that there's so many genres anyway. How can you classify? I mean, it's just music, right? Like it's an art form. It's self-expression
Right.
in some way. You either like it or you don't. And that comes back to Ellington, almost like, you know, good music and bad music. There are many kinds. If you sometimes you like it and sometimes you don't. Sometimes it grows on you, sometimes it won't. You know, it's all so subjective to the living moment, right? We've gone past "You Are My Sunshine" long time ago.
And those were the simpler times.
Very, very much so. Very much so. But still have their difficulties too, right? Right.
Right. I know it. I know it. Now, I always ask you, are you working on anything now? And I know that's a crazy question, but I know you probably are.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think everybody's always when you're infected by what you do as far as your art form. I'm gonna use that word right now, and I like it. I like the infection. You're always doing something in some way, even if you're not practically sitting somewhere with an instrument, writing, playing, rehearsing, recording, whatever it is. Because it's about sort of the artistic mind. Application is secondary. It's important. Don't get me wrong. It's like, tools, craft, ability to achieve something when you're playing something and skill is important. But following the passion and the catalysts for ideas can happen anywhere at any moment in time. So before the show today, I was out on the porch playing, and I just had a bunch of ideas, and I wanted to remember them really quickly. And I picked up a Kleenex box, and there was a marker sitting on the table, and on the back of the Kleenex box, I'm writing out the chords, right? So, like, that's what I'm getting at. It can happen anywhere. You just got to take action upon what it is and follow that initial spark. That's always the most important thing. And then again, I'm going to say it again, allowing yourself to be pulled through the experience, because I've found some of the most blessed and blissful and unbelievable experiences in the relinquishment of that, in terms of I don't want to force an idea through what the initial spark is saying. I start to feel contravity and things being contrived or clinical in some way because they're based on something that's like literary tangents that are rhyming. I avoid it because I want the experience to be telling me something different, even if it takes longer to figure out what it is. Sometimes it happens quickly, and sometimes it can take months and then deliberate through how the language should fall or how the ideas are presenting themselves. So it does feel like that. And at the same time, I've allowed the recording process to do the same thing. And people that are involved in the recording, I want their interpretations. And I, my dialogue is going to be verbal but not explanatory. I'm going to say something like on the new single that's coming out. Tobias, my buddy in Germany, he was working on some intermingling pieces and solo segment, and I had recorded something with this acoustic that I had overdriven through an amp, and we mic'd, and I got kind of the effect that I wanted because it was that sort of pissed off bumblebee sound, right? But I thought he's such a scientist professor when it comes to synthesizers and sounds, and I really so greatly respect his abilities that I thought he should have a shot at it. And what came, my direction to him was, something like electric buzzsaw, pissed off Aboriginal rain dance or something like that. And what came back was exactly, and I think Stevie Wonder was intermingled somewhere in there too. But I didn't have any real directive thing like, play these notes, use these, none of, and same thing with Dave, even his interpretation of what was going on when he came in to do the drum track was that. same thing with Mike Jack and his interpretations of the things that he's hearing as far as mixes and production, and his contributions to that have been immense. So is there something going on? Yes. Is it all the time? Yes. But, you know, it may not always be showing itself continually. That's it, you know.
But what's cool is they can usually figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah,
You-
there's always something, you know, there's always something to figure out something. You know?
yeah, yeah. And I'm sure they're probably pretty right on cue too.
Oh yeah, they're like, I love working with the people I work with. That's one of the that's funny when some people have asked me, you know, what's your greatest reward, your acclamation, or something that has happened to you where you're receiving this notoriety, and ultimately, and I will keep saying it, it's the ability to do what I do and work with the people that I work with, because that's the whole deal, baby. That's what I, you know, life. I as a person that likes to look back at history, because, you know, there's people that inspire you. One of the things that I think about are the moments, boom, in artists' careers, whether they be bands or, you know, just writers. And I'm staggered at, and this is where, in the weirdest of ways, music and anthropology kind of go hand in hand, because in sociology, there is a extreme connectiveness to the living moment and what's being written about, and the reason it exists in pop culture is because it's expressive of the moment. Herbie Hancock once said that the definition of an artist is one who has the ability to fuse their life with the rhythm of the times. And those rhythms are fascinating. They're what I like to think about what in my living moment. And when I look back at records that I recorded or tunes that I did or people that I work with, they excite me because I'm lucky to have lived them. I'm lucky to have known those people, participated in those things. And that's why I got involved with what I do. It is the quintessence of you know, my existence as a person. I do a lot of other things, and I have fun doing them, and they're part of my life. But, you know, somebody once said to me, like, because it has, you know, you're bringing up the point of commodity and making money from doing what you do, and that's an important thing, obviously. But ultimately, as dark as it sounds, I want my last moment in my bed before I die, or wherever it may be, to know that I had those experiences. I took the time to ride the wild horse. I forged ahead despite people said no. I met wonderful people on my journey. Uh, I went to dangerous places with what I did, and I went to places that felt like emancipation, some level of
Yeah.
victory. So I mean, I'm a proponent of like being a spiritual person. I don't know what that is and how you personally or anybody else wants to define it. But somehow in the back of my mind, I've always felt like I've had to do this. As corny as that sounds. Whether it parallels or not anything to do with something that's like trauma as a child, or I don't think from a psychological level, if I was to analyze myself, one of the reasons why I gravitated to an art form and self-expression was because I was told I had a problem. I didn't fit into a framework. But that struggle is what's made me stronger. It's what's made me realize that staying where I am, as hard as it's been sometimes, the gratification at this moment, if I was to die tomorrow, it's my gratification surpasses most things because I was able to do this. I like elation, and that
Mhm.
serves some purpose for whatever I feel my mission is here. However, my connective thinking, cognitive thought, if I am a part of the matrix or not, I don't know. Regardless, I know it's right for me. Just like growing food, it sustains me. It gives me hope.
Right. Well, that's the thing too with doctors and telling you how to life and what to do with your health, you know, and as opposed to what I should do myself. Um, the doctor's telling me you can't go ride a bike, you can't go skating. I mean, do you just say, "Well, I don't hear you. I'm going to go do these what I want to do." I mean, is that that's your mindset?
Yeah, and I won't lie to you, girl. Like, there's been times I want to pack it in, like just like a lot of friends and family
Mhm.
that I know that have struggled through anything that they're doing. What I'm lucky to have is a family and friends that have always been there, just like I, and vice versa. I was talking to a buddy about this a month ago, I think, and I remember a couple years back, he was texting me saying, I'm getting out of it. I'm gonna go and become a teacher, which is admirable. Working with kids and doing stuff, and he's back in it again, and wholeheartedly, and that's what I mean. I've been there too. I've been in a position where I don't know if I can do this any longer. And the other thing is that you know sometimes entertainers and people that are like turn on and you're electric, they people don't realize that
Right.
we also have external struggles that are affecting us internally, so we're also navigating what that is on a regular basis. So yes, I do kind of have a I'm just gonna do it mentality, like you said, and I don't care like what anybody says, and that's what I got to tell myself. I've told myself sometimes. When I wrote the tune "I Am Love," I was at like a low point. Everybody loves. I just heard from a guy from Africa, from a promoter in Uganda, that wants to, really do some work with that tune. And ironically, it came from a place where I was like asking myself some serious questions, and I was depressed and I was funked out and in a really crappy state. And I'm sitting in the bathtub asking myself the question, why are you here? What are you doing here? And what exactly are you expecting? Like all just the simple things, turning of life, to everything. Turn. You're asking yourself those questions. Whether I'm questioning the news media or what's going on at the grocery store, or whether or not I should buy these shoelaces, I'm even questioning myself when it comes to those kinds of things, because I think it's healthy to push yourself, and you start to realize that sometimes change is necessary. And by asking yourself those hard questions, they become the catalyst for change. All of a sudden, that tune manifested itself through those hard questions, and people see it as a positive thing. It is. The message and the lyrics and the way it's delivered and every aspect of the song says positivity, but the reality of it is it came from a diametrically opposed place, and that's not uncommon with writing and feeling things.
And don't be scared. You come across those bridges where that is absolutely true. So,
Yeah, man.
you know, I've always wanted to write. Now I've wrote a few things, but I'm like, uh, you know, and I wanted to play guitar. I do have a guitar. I know 3 or 4 notes, but they say that's all it takes.
Well, yeah, sometimes it takes a few more.
When I get to a point in writing, and it doesn't come after that. And I'm like, okay, what? Do I just set it down and go back to it? Do you just keep writing what comes into your head?
Well, it's funny you say that because
Now I have.
it goes both ways. That's what's wonderful about the experience is that you may be thinking about ideas that you want to say and how you want to say them. And sometimes they're telling you what you should kind of say. That's what I'm kind of getting at. But the other process for me is also what the instrument is presenting to you. And what I mean by that is like Carlos Santana is an interesting person to listen to talk about this kind of thing because, first of all, I mean, a lot of musicians respect him, just like myself. He's a very spiritual person, and his pathway in terms of his personal musical guidance, the way he guides himself is by what he calls casting. And that means he'll go and he'll play other people's music with his instrument. That's not uncommon for musicians to do that because we love it. We grew up, we're sparked by it. Or we're running something diagnostic. Maybe we're playing with scales. We're trying to get our fingers doing certain things in certain ways. And in that process, you start hearing little ideas that intrigue you and spark your need for search. Almost like the first little idea is showing you like, what about like, because you're doing all this stuff technically, you almost start to hear these other notes in a way, and even rhythmically, that will, either be the prefix or the suffix of this little idea that you're working on. And little by little, even a complicated piece starts to sort of unfold. It's not always linear, like it starts here and this is where the melody began, and then sometimes you might realize halfway through the process that this ends up as a better space and idea for the back end of a concept than it is at the front end.
Now,
because you
do
discovered,
that.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll do that, but then it's like when I'll sit at the piano, like, no, I can't get it from here and the tune in my head to the instrument. That's what I had.
Well, and you know what that is? That's just sheer amount of time with your instrument and playing. Again, people that I listened to as a young person, struggling to learn chords and play things, they would say your instrument is supposed to be an extension of who you are. What that means is an incredible amount of time spent with your instrument to allow yourself to fluidly speak through it. And some musicians are, at a very young age, have the ability to do that, and others need time. I knew a lot of people, before college, even playing in bands, and God, when you got to college and university, I mean, we're practicing 10 to 12 hours a day, then going to school, then going out at night, watching people play in clubs, and, doing that for extended periods of time, years, that was a part of that growth experience that gave you that ability to talk, so that wasn't such a worry. If you spent more time, and it's hard, especially when you get older, to have that time because there's so many other things that infiltrate our time. As a younger person, that's why, you're 14 and I didn't have an iPhone, I didn't have a computer. This was my thing. and other kids and people I knew grew up in the neighborhood. It may have been a drum kit that was the thing. It may have been a piano or a keyboard or whatever it was, a sax or a horn of some kind. They were all part of some rite of passage that allowed us to be, a part of this growth experience through the art form. And I'm lucky. A lot of people that I met along the way are still doing it. Some aren't. But it's that absolute necessity that there's, like I said before, you're almost like, I have to do this. Even people today, that are struggling are still doing it because they have to.
Right. Um, I I do have to, but you know, I play for the church also, but and it's not that I have to, but I want to. Yeah, so a
Well,
little
yeah, and
bit
that's
of both.
that there's a prime example of culture and contributing to culture and community as a result of music being a part of culture.
Hmm.
You're playing at your church.
Yep. Well, we haven't been back since March, but
Wow.
uh, that's another
Excuse me.
thing. Yep, March. We shall see, right?
Yeah.
But I know you're geared up and wanting to play. Now,
Well,
when I let you play, I'm probably gonna click on my screen, so you're just there by yourself, so I don't cloud you. Click back on and come back on. But don't think I'm just gone to be gone.
okay. I got you. I got you. Buffering and such.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd like to play a couple tunes if that's all right with you. I'm gonna play some
Sure.
new stuff that's from the new album. Not some of it might be released already, and some of it isn't. Um, but yeah, again, I think it defines us as who we are in terms of our life experience. Um, People often ask me, like, what do you write about? Why do you write about it? What I've been really liking a lot lately, as I say, is painting sort of more tapestries with words, and letting you try to figure out what it means to you. Sometimes the literal aspect to things is not always the right way. Sometimes it is. Stop. Otherwise, you'll run into this intersection. Green, go. You can now depart. But other times it's just good to feel, experience, and express, and not be so worried about form and idea. But yeah, I'm gonna do this tune, and it's from a new project called A Recipe for Perpetual Spring, and this is called She's Just a Fire. Well, the reason that she's broke is she's addicted to giving. The more she gave away, well, the more she earned her living. Never catch her age, cause she keeps it on the run. And she ain't no angel, but I've seen her act like one. She's just a fire, she's just a fire. She's just a fire, she's just a fire. She's just a fire, she's just a fire. I'm just a fire, she's just a lamb. And when she tells the truth, man, she'll put you in your place. I've seen her protect lies, and then she tells them to your face. Reminds me of my dreams, if my heart forgets to sing. When I see her smile, man, it changes everything. She's just a fire, she's just a fire. She's just a fire, she's just a fire. Just a fire, she's just a fire. She's just a fire, she's just a fire. And I'm calling out to her, even when she's not there. Even when I'm leaving, she's the one who seems to care. And so I'm taken back with my heart put on a rack. And man, I'm telling you, she's just a fire. Sing it out, sing. Oh, 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 oh. I'm leaving, she's the one who seems to care. So I'm taken back with my heart put on the rack. And man, I'm telling you, She's just a fire. 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 She's just a oh 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 oh. She's just a oh just a fire, just a fire. Gonna get burned. Yeah, but she's just a fire, right? I'm gonna play the latest single that's out right now. There's a new single that's coming out, so I hope people check it out. It's on YouTube, Special Ed Roman. You know, the song, again, it's coming from a place about thinking about personal struggle. And, you know, I think sometimes that means not being able to figure things out quickly. Push button, boom, fixed. No, it's not going to always happen that way. And I think that's good because you become stronger every day as a result of that struggle in some fashion. So again, this is where negative into a positive. How high do you want to go? Just lead the way. Makes no difference to me, so I can hear you say, my waistcoat of disaster, I threw it all away. And I'm feeling stronger, you're gonna hear me say, I'm feeling stronger, stronger every day. I'm feeling stronger, stronger every day. Well, I'm melting my pennies down and dusting off my brow. At the Cherry Convention, they can show you how. It's my lucky pine cone. We're gonna talk to Ray. Didn't see that coming. You're gonna hear me say, I'm feeling stronger, stronger every day. I'm feeling stronger, stronger every day. I'm feeling stronger, stronger every day. You know what? Somebody break my bones because I'm finally free. Really had no idea what's been holding on to me. Like being burned out, but now I see. And it won't be too much longer, 'cause I'm feeling stronger, stronger every day. I like watching movies with experienced friends. You could call it old-fashioned, it's not really a trend. And at the Pharaoh's Lighthouse, they'll bring you to shore. And I think you could love it. I'll thank you even more. Thank you. I'm feeling stronger, stronger every day. I'm feeling stronger, stronger every day. I'm feeling stronger, stronger every day. I'm feeling stronger, stronger every. Somebody break my bones. I'm feeling stronger, stronger. And I'm finally free. I'm finally stronger, stronger every day. I'm feeling stronger, stronger every day. Thanks, Paige.
That's pretty cool. So, you know, it's pretty cool that we can go back and forth like that. But oh, very cool. I love those songs, Ed, by the way, and there's people out there commenting also they like that song. So,
Thank you very much, Paige.
y'all will have to wait. Right, Ed?
Well, I mean, good things come to those, right?
Yes, then there are those who are impatient. We won't name them. Not me, certainly, but
Well, I think we can all be a little impatient. I think that we're being pushed to sort of points of impatience now with certain things. But again, that's why I'm saying that vehicles are important for the expulsion of anxiety.
mm-hmm. And I have learned a little bit of patience too. So I'm like, time, time, time. So
Well,
yeah,
say it's a
I have,
virtue.
it's funny, right? It is. But you can't go just anywhere right now, and so you do have to deal with it. So why not sit back and today, and I was thinking about Sunday, going and visiting friends. I said, back in the day we did.
On Sunday.
We all get in the car. We'd all get in the car and we'd go to her house or, even to three and four different places and then end up coming back home and eating dinner or supper or whatever it may be with the whole family. And that's what you did on a Sunday.
Very true. And everything was closed. There was no shopping and
Yes,
groceries and right.
right. Mm-hmm. He's right. But yeah,
Well, yeah,
everything now is just so
yes, but
fast.
I think that all becomes choice. This is the wonderful thing about free will, and also the alarming thing about free will is that, as I pointed out before, there are always elements and pitfalls of danger, however you want to frame it. If that's what we're talking about in terms of things that people struggle with. How you cope with it and get through it is key. And I really don't think there's always a litmus test or something that is the right way or the wrong way. I think it's what suits you. People like I garden, I play music, I probably read a lot of and get into a lot of dry material that a lot of people would think, man, how can you like get into hours of stuff about geology and catastrophic meltings of the ice caps and studying mammoths, and what I don't know. It turns me on. It doesn't have to turn everybody else on, but
Right.
it's something that helps me depart. And not only that, not just depart, because I know it's there and I still pay attention to it, but it electrifies me in a way that allows me to arrest in what that is in the living moment. Um, a good example is like, because I get excited about it, and it might come as some shock to some people if I just meet them or we start talking and start asking them certain questions about certain things, and I might go off talking about it. It's not because like I want to like run a conversation or I have some information that I think it's going to be utilizable. Some of this is not at all utilizable in the moment. Some of the information I have, it's like but at the same time, as I said, because I'm excited about it, I talk about it, and that excitement then permeates in other things that I do. So I feel more connected to myself, even inside of the framework of catastrophe. And I know that's kind of hard to believe, but that as a lyricist, as somebody that writes and performs and plays music, that's one part of it. But really, what I'm more fascinated by as a human is the time people took to document who we were as cultures, as I mentioned before. That may not come in a form of song, or or story. It might be a dialogue about something somebody witnessed. A prime example is, if nobody's ever heard of Pliny the Younger. Okay, so if you do a little research on Pliny the Younger, there's the Pliny the Elder and Pliny the Younger. But when the epic sort of volcanic explosions that sort of covered Pompeii and different parts of the Mediterranean happened, Pliny the Younger was sitting at a distance watching that horrific event unfold, and took the time to document things that he saw that he almost didn't even know how to really classify. But he used examples in his day and age to try and say, this is what it looks like to me. You know, when the volcano blew up and it sent this huge pyroclastic flow not only down the sides of the volcano, but this immense blast that went up into the atmosphere and just kept rising like a column. If you ever see Mount St. Helens or the other explosive sort of volcanic things that had happened, he described it as this pillar of smoke, because it comes up and it literally almost has a capital at the top as it's reaching the sort of edges of the cloud lines. So from that perspective of an...
I was at my library. It's been a while ago now, and I was reading through genealogy. You know, I was reading through my ancestors' records, and I came across like you said, a document, and they were describing the weather. Let me tell you how they described it, because it's just ironic, you know, because of the era, I guess. And you know, our day and time, if it's hell, you know, it's dime size, pea size, and da 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 da, or even quarter size, or even softball size, and on there, and it's like had rain as big as eggs, but I can't remember what the eggs were. There was just regular sized eggs, and it would say eggs. I'm like, really? I said, well,
Right, and they're using their reference of their time frame, right, to describe,
visual.
right. And that's, I guess what I was getting at is that's what's fascinating to me about our culture, is that we've had very similar experiences. Our interpretations may be slightly different as a result of the time frames that we live in, but yet they are extremely unique and very close also at the same time to one another's experiences. So, like I said, it may not be coming in a form of song or story, but it may be coming in somebody's depiction of what they witnessed at a certain moment in time. Uh, that I guess is what fascinates me about, you know, language and songwriting and storytelling, for that matter, because as I said, the more I look at certain things, like here's a fascinating thing. I think it's fascinating anyway, but you know, everybody is familiar with the epic flood of Noah, right? But that story is not synonymous in just Judeo-Christian sort of religion. It extends into multiple facets of the ancient world, including into the epic story of Gilgamesh, which is, you know, in Sumerian in nature. And not only that, I can't remember his name again, but he was a very well-known American painter at the turn of the late 1800s. And he spent close to, like, you know, a quarter of a century of his life with Aboriginal people all over the United States, every kind of tribal, indigenous group that you can think of. And one of the things that he said, and this is so, you know, impactful with what I just said in regards to that myth not being able, not only just Judeo-Christian, but extending back into antiquity as to what we know. But even culturally, aboriginally, he said they're so diverse in their cultures, in terms of their song, their clothing, their practices, the things that make them who they are, are very unique to who they are. But one thing that keeps them all together is this synonymous story of a point in time when so much water came that it overran the land and destroyed everything. And they tell it in different factions. And when you start to see this alignment of what could be almost a part of the subconscious of who we are as people today and don't even realize it, that this is what's fascinating about language as time moves through, that it's so important to me that people take these moments in time to document who we are, whether it be descriptive or something that's, you know, an art form or some sort of literary, you know, piece of art, of literature, that all has the same function as far as who we are culturally. And again, it goes to that, you know, defined by the moment that we live in. And it changes from age to age. You can even see the repercussions of it by saying, like, I have an affiliation for nostalgia and history. So I don't mind going back many years from a point that I didn't exist to appreciate other things, whether it be film, music, literature. But some people today, and it may be also a portion of like who you are and where you grow as a person, that would say, well, no, that's old. Oh, it looks silly. Look at the way it was filmed. Look what how they're talking. But at the same time, I understand that that's the generational gap. That you know, I was thinking about this earlier today. As the last wave uncovers the newfangled ways, there's always this changeover in that cycle of art, literature, language, culture. But again, I'm happy that I've found this, I don't know, feeling inside
Niche.
of me. Not even niche, just feeling in me many years ago that language was so important. And ironically, you know, I struggled so much in a literary sense. I guess that's another reason why I'm fascinated. The very struggle of it is what led me down those roads as far as language is concerned. So, you know, if I didn't play music and I wasn't involved with it, like, I would totally be into like anthropology and archaeology. I'm like, I'm there. Give me the brush, give me the tools. I want to crawl in like tombs and caves and, you know, connect with ancient cultures. I'm fascinated by who we are and where we came from.
Awesome. I'm always fascinated, and I always enjoy talking to Ed. Yeah, I like to listen to the stories Ed has, and Ed has been everywhere. I still interviews out of Blog Talk Radio out there, and I know we've had some really good discussions out there. So if anybody can just go out there and all you have to do is Google, I think. If you know how to find it. So but yeah, we'll have to do this again, and we're booked up. I got Richard Nicholas again, um, September 15th. So
Nice.
we're
Nice.
booked up all the way to there, Michael Stover. So
Well, maybe
if nobody else keeps us, go ahead.
maybe around
Maybe if
Halloween,
what?
Halloween time, we could do something spooky around Halloween time.
Right. And that would be fun. Yes.
I love
And I know
Halloween.
you will come up with it.
I love Halloween. It's the only time of the year you get to be somebody different and have fun with it and just be crazy and, you know, freak people out a little bit. Not like I don't do that with music in any way.
Like every day is Halloween, man.
Halloween is good. Halloween is good. Love you, Paige. It was good talking to you, man. And stay tight in Georgia. I know things are crazy down there right now. So thinking about all my friends and people I work with and family. So.
Well, if you're ever out this way, you'll have to look me up, or vice versa. I'll holler.
I was gonna have a peach ready for tonight to eat on the show.
Oh, right. Yes. And I usually have some too, but a tomato or two that we've been getting in. So
Do it, girl. Do it.
my
Awesome. Awesome.
y'all have to go out there and look on his Facebook. I mean, his gardening is awesome. So I love watching all that. And Ed going everywhere. Right. Right, Ed.
Thanks, Paige.
We're gonna close out, and when will I be on here next? Saturday. Oh no, where am I? Right. Oh, Steve Coughlin. He's Georgia too. He'll be with us on August 11th, next Tuesday. So on Tuesday we have some good shows coming up too. But I do want to thank you for coming on, Ed, and I appreciate you. So
thank you, Paige. You've been a huge support for so many people at MTS, not only myself, but everybody down there. And again, it's like the advent of what we do, and it's all new technology. You're working with a new sort of web system tonight, and you were mentioning intercom radio, and that's where we met years ago. And it's still out there. You know, you mentioned people can check stuff out, but isn't it interesting, where we come today already? And we're live streaming and talking and seeing each other and doing all that. So kudos to you. Keep doing it, girl. Keep doing it.
I will. So as long as I got breath in my body, I guess I'll
do it.
But my intercom radio is still up out there. Yeah, still on Facebook. Everything still goes to it. So
good.
Something stay the same is good. But have a good one, Ed, and stay safe out there, and keep us posted on your music. And yeah, we'll have to have you back on maybe near October, the end of October.
So thank you, Paige, and again, thanks for the opportunity. I will let you know when the new single's out and tag you in the video when it's up on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please, because I'll add it to the website as well that I finally got up. So we're going to close out here, and I want to thank everybody out there. Race was chatting too, so we appreciate everybody that's been on there chatting on our restream chat. So yeah.
Thanks.
So all right, Ed, we're out of here.
Have a good one, Paige. Ciao.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.